Welcome to day 3. Isn't Stamp Camp Week of Webisodes fun? Well, you know, Fran, who's the owner of Stampendous, has made stamping, well, she's just taken it to another level with her Encrusted Jewels sets.
These are great kits that have all kinds of elements like glass glitter, mica flakes, embossing enamels, and all in these color-coordinated packages.
And what's wonderful is what you can do with them, and that's what we're going to share. Come play with us. Okay, here's Fran's collection. You can see that they're color coordinated. There are 5 tubes in each collection.
And 5 different color sets: blue, pink, purple,
teal, and bronze. Okay, and we discovered something as we were getting ready for this. So you can see this is the blue collection, and on the side it's going to tell us that there's royal blue glass glitter, shabby blue embossing enamel, the royal blue embossing tinsel, so that's kind of a glittery look, the silver halo glitter, and the powder blue fragments. Those are going to be kind of mica fragments.
There are different elements in each kit, so these aren't going to be the same kinds of elements in each kit, but it makes it fun. There's lots of different things to play with. The great thing about this is that you can cut off each of those labels.
Let me tell them first. For over a year, we have been struggling with, gosh, I wish Fran would label each of these. Then we're getting ready for the Webisode, and we read the package. I know that's a dramatic thing to do, but we did that.
Gee, and what are these little scissors look on the side?
And it says,
cut the dotted lines, like where to cut out.
So what did we find?
Well, we found that when we cut out those cute little labels, they fit right on the bottles, just like so.
Hot diggity.
So figure out which one each one is, put the label on there, and you'll never have to struggle again.
And then you don't have to say things to Fran, like, why didn't you do this for us, dear?
She did.
Sorry, Fran. Okay, this is the blue collection, so I just read that to you. And here is our very first card. And nicely, it's also using a Stampendous stamp. And click your heels is what it says with this very steampunky looking one.
With the blue collection, I'd like to show you what actually comes in this particular collection. You've got all of these elements. The glass glitter, which I've placed on top of some of the white enamel so you can see it. Royal blue glass glitter. Powder blue color fragments, which also have to be heated on top of an enamel to stick.
Okay.
Silver halo glitter, which I've got there. The shabby blue embossing enamel. It's got a little bit of gold, a little bit of blue and white. And the royal blue embossing tinsel, which is really shiny when you hit on it. So that's this kit.
So now I bring in the card. Okay, whoops, a little problem there. Okay, here's the card. And isn't this spectacular? Okay, so you're going to show us how to do this, right?
I'm going to show you how to do some of it for sure. I want to mention that the stamping was actually done on the ultra smooth paper, and then we used the Spectrum Noir pens to color in all the elements. And it was stamped several times, plunk, 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 and then cut out all of these different elements like so. You can see one of the elements here. This was embossed with the royal blue embossing tinsel and then colored in with the pens. And then you can add a little bit more of the enamel and heat it on top. And that's the part that I will show you.
Very pretty. Okay, bring it on.
Okay.
Now this is Time for Fun paper pack, right? Oh,
it is the Time for Fun paper pack. I've got the brown on the actual card, and then I've got this piece that I did on top.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that's going to happen when you heat this several times, that it's going to buckle the paper up. For this look, I liked it quite a bit, so I left it that way. But you can also back it on cardstock first if you don't want that to happen too much. Okay, craft sheet is a must.
Okay.
This stuff gets kind of messy, but it's, you know, it's fun. It's fun to play with the looks and see what you're going to come up with.
Yeah, I think one of the things as you're getting into this is with all of the Encrusted Jewel kit is that you can't 100% control the results. So there's a nice thing about that, but you just kind of need to know before you get into it.
Right.
You're bringing them all out?
Well, I'm bringing out some of them. I think I'm going to need these 3 for this.
Okay.
Which is, I'm going to start with the embossing enamel. So first let me take my Versamark, and I just sort of went on 2 edges of the paper and just sort of haphazardly kind of put it on there like that.
Okay, so just randomly.
Yeah,
but you're going.
Swipe it on.
You're going onto the paper. You're not just trying to stay to the edge.
No, I'm putting it on the paper because it actually has to go underneath that stamped image of the shoe a little bit. So after I get that on there, I'm going to start with the enamel. Now, some of the elements in the kit, when you heat them, they melt. Some of them, they don't. With the enamels, they're going to melt. Some of the glitters, they're actually tinsels, and they have an enamel in it that will melt as well. Some of them don't. So when you have something that won't, you want to put on an enamel first, and then you want to put those other elements on top of it so that it'll stick. If you want some extra something on there, like I like a little more white, I'm just gonna put it right on there. I'm not even worried that it's not sticking because of what I'm gonna do next, and I'll show you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put that off to the side. I'm gonna move these, and I'm gonna get out my heat gun.
Okay.
And I'll watch all that go. Zippity-doo-dah. I probably should have put a piece of paper
I know, what
under
were we
there.
thinking?
What was I thinking? Okay, off to the side. I'm going to grab my heat gun. And when I heat this, because everything doesn't always stick to this, it's a real kind of a arty, kind of a clumpy effect that you're going to get, you have to heat from underneath.
Okay.
So here we go, from underneath. And you'll see the paper buckle for one thing. You'll see it move around a little bit. You just want to, I can see it turning already. If you get close enough, it'll turn pretty quickly. I've got to move it up to be able to do this. And can you see the enamel turning?
I can, yes.
And I'm going to do it all over. I'm getting pretty close. I'm doing it as quick as I can here for our purposes. I would suggest doing it maybe a little bit further from the paper when you're at home because you don't want to scorch the paper.
Right.
If at all possible. Okay, I think for the most part, some of the thicker areas, you heat them a little bit extra to get them melted. So that's pretty well melted.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got everything.
You do?
Okay. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to add some of the other elements. Do you want to get in here and do something?
Yeah, let me
before I do that?
scoot this out for you.
Okay. I think probably be a good idea if I put down paper before I do.
Here.
Good idea. All right.
I'll play with your corner over here.
I want to put I'm going to start with the color fragments and just sort of plop them on just randomly. Everything on this is randomly. Every look that you get is going to be a little bit different. So a little bit of the color fragments, which do not melt, so I have to put them on that embossing enamel so that they'll melt into the embossing enamel. The same with the glass glitter. I'm just going to put it on randomly, and I can move that around with my finger too if I need to.
Do you want me to move this?
Well, I'll go ahead and hold. Before you move it, let me just, because some of it's going to go away when I'm going to want to get it onto the enamel, my paper buckle. You can also straighten the paper a little bit and make it a little easier.
Okay.
And make sure that that stuff's on there. Okay.
Ready?
It's going to blow a lot when you do this from the bottom. You'll see things blow. So I like to try to get a lot of extra and try to just slowly, I'm moving this sort of underneath, trying to get it close to where I'm heating up that enamel again.
Right, because they won't stick by themselves, so you've got to heat up the enamel.
Heat up the enamel, and when the enamel turns liquidy again, then it sticks the other elements that you set on top of it.
You know, and if you're a first-time stamper, you may not realize that you can reheat embossing powder and turn it into a more of a kind of, not quite a liquid state, but almost.
Yeah, well, when it melts, it's a liquid
it is?
state.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. And let's see if I melted it enough for it to stay on there.
Yeah, you did most of it. And that's okay for that to happen, to lose some of them. Right. You can just, again, go through the process as many times as you like.
So, yeah, as many times as you like. You can add a little bit more, like on the areas if I missed anything. And then when that sits back on that, it's just a real striking edging.
Let's get in close to see that.
I also Versamarked the edge, just the very edges of the brown, and put in just the embossing powder on there. And
so what I'm seeing is not only the different colors, but also the different textures. And I love how the first one that you put down kind of spattered. I think that's really pretty.
Right. You can use your finger and direct it where you want to go, but it kind of has a mind of its own afterwards, which is cool. It's a very arty look.
So going back to our finished card, so you can see how going along the edges of the blue Time for Fun paper works so nicely, and then along the brown, really having the embossing powder there, but adding the mica and the flakes on the top of the embossing powder for the edge of that.
Right, that was a really fun card, and cutting out all those little elements from the stamp because that's such a unique stamp.
I also like the click your heels is how the stamp is, but decided to do click and having that up coming out of the shoe, your heels right there, and using several of the little clocks that are in here and doing them individually. So nicely done, really, really pretty. This card doesn't have an inside, so we're not ignoring you. Okay, so you want to get ready for the next one?
Well, let's see the card, and I'll be getting that set.
Okay,
Yeah,
this is the pink set, so this is what that looks like. It's not a hot pink set, it's more of a muted, so the encrusted.
Sort of a dusty rose sort of look to it. And here are the elements that you find in this set. There's a champagne glass glitter, which you can see on top of the white enamel here.
Pretty.
A rose color fragments. Now, both of the glass glitter and the rose color fragments, they will not melt, so they have to be on top of an embossing powder. These are pearlized mica flakes.
And they're beautiful.
They are beautiful. I'm going to do this because they're just, they remind me of a shell from a seashell, you know, abalone or something.
Well, and you know, mica is a naturally occurring mineral, and it is, when it's formed, it's in layers, so you can...
They're very thin. They're like paper-thin little flakes. These really fly. You have to have them stuck onto the enamel, but it's such a beautiful effect. This is great. This is aged rose embossing enamel. So there's a little gold, a little rose in there.
And that's what I love that Stampendous has done, to have this mixture together, and just so pretty.
It's funny how the gold's sort of collected at the edges. You never know what it's going to do. And shabby pink embossing enamel. So both of these are the enamels that you'll place underneath those non-melting elements.
Okay, and this card is using, of course, a stamp. It's using the pink set. It's also using the Espresso Artful Card Kit, which is in the brown tones, which I kind of think of for masculine, but look at how beautiful this card is. Now, you've taken, these are die cuts that are out of the card kit. So this piece, as well as the keys, as well as the frame and the keyhole itself. And it looks like all of those have a touch of the encrusted jewels on them.
Right. There's lots of fun ways to play with it on here. So I'm going to start with this element here with the stamping on that large label.
And this is the stamp. It's one of our little stamps, and this is a hello, and as you can see. So you're going to bring this in?
So here's the label. That's one of the die cuts from the Espresso Artful Card Kit. And from the elements of the rose encrusted jewels, I'm going to pull out, just for this one, I'm going to pull out the aged rose embossing enamel.
Okay, so only that one this time?
Only that one.
Okay, so we're going to do something different.
And I start with my Versamark.
Okay.
And I'm going to get the Versamark just on that center portion. So one big swipe right down the center.
Okay.
And I can always move the embossing enamel around to where I want it. And if you have a piece of white paper, so I can do this a little more cleanly than I did on the last one. Then I'll take that. So the Versamark is on there. This embossing enamel is going to adhere to the Versamark.
And the embossing enamel is got granular pieces in it. So again, because it's got multiple colors in it, so it's a little feel a little different.
Right. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to shake this off.
Aha.
And I'm going to get it kind of thick.
As a matter of fact, you're adding more.
I'm adding a little bit more. Especially in the center, I want it to be kind of thick for what I'm going to do with it.
Okay, but I should remove this piece of paper?
You can do that, yeah,
Okay.
if you want to put it back in there. Now I've got to heat this, and because I left a pretty thick layer of that embossing enamel, I'm going to heat it from below, which most of our work is done that way with this kit.
In fact, with all of the kits. So anything like this with the Encrusted Jewels set, you'll be heating from underneath.
Right.
For the most part, right?
For the most part.
Yeah.
So you're going to see some of it blow off a little bit. You want to make sure you're working on a nice covered surface because this can get pretty messy. I'm moving my fingers a little bit because I might have to move to the other side because I'm going to have to get close to where my fingers are. You could probably use tweezers with this to hold it. You can see it melting finally.
Yeah,
thick, so.
You can use tweezers, you can use a clothespin, anything like that works really well.
Okay, now that I've got that side, I'm going to have to...
I'll hold it.
Thank you. I'm going to have to turn it around and get the other side. So projects from these kits, they might take, if you're doing something adventurous like doing as much work as we're putting into these cards, it does take a little bit longer, but I sort of see these as gift cards really.
Because they are so dramatic, aren't they?
Yeah, they have very dramatic effects. Come on, we get you.
And
melted.
most people make sure that they give cards like this to someone who's really going to appreciate it. So.
Sure. Just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can do that from the top without it
There
blowing.
you go.
We go. Okay. Now I can heat it from the top a little bit. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to do it kind of quickly.
Okay, I'll take this.
I'm going to.
You want
I've got it.
Okay.
So I have my stamp
Right there?
right here.
Hurry.
That I just heated up, but I'm going to heat it up one more time before I do it. Just a little bit. I want to get that as melty as I can. And if you can see it, it sort of moves around when you know it's kind of liquidy. There, I can see it moving around.
And then quickly.
Press it. And I'm pressing it kind of hard down into that.
Because it's going through the layers, isn't it?
Enamel.
Okay.
And there we go. Oh!
You forgot to ink it.
I forgot to ink it!
Okay, if you don't ink it, that's what you get. If you do ink it...
With stays on.
Oh, okay, with stays on.
Yeah, with stays on. And, you know, that looks kind of cool anyway. So
it does.
There's something, it's like a little embossing, it's like one of those letters, sealed letters.
I think I like it better with the ink.
I like it better with the ink. Oh,
you really tried to sell that, didn't you? Okay, but the other pieces, you've done a similar thing, except this time you added some of the other pieces. So that's just a beautiful look. Yeah,
okay.
I think we're fine. So let's move on. We have another example of using the pink set. And here this is. I'm going to scoot your craft sheet over, okay? And this is using two different stamps, also from Stampendous. There is the lady, and then there is an all over. So you can see this all over foliage was used for this area. And then the encrusted jewels are placed really heavily around Our Lady. Just a beautiful
look.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah. So just a little bit back here with the grapefruit. Grapefruit paper pack. And I like the borders, that there's a little bit of white left on there, the matting, so you can see that enamel both on the paper and on the card.
And look how those mica flakes really just shimmer and shine. It's just a beautiful look, as well as getting the texture.
Right. Another thing about those elements that they will only stick if you put them on something that's melted behind them. You can also stick them on with Aline's tacky glue.
Oh, if you want to add a few more?
Well, there's glass glitter. I mean, you can stick glitter with glue, so why not? So put it wherever you want. Put the mica flakes on there, and that's another way to use them.
Okay, now we're going to move into purple. Show me what this has.
The purple set. Okay, this one I've got on white because that purple you can see it better on white. So the elements with the purple Encrusted Jewels kit are royal purple glass glitter, which does not melt, lavender glass glitter, which also does not melt, the purple color fragments. They're not shiny, but they add this nice impact of color. And, my favorite one is the aged wine embossing enamel. I'm going to have to turn that. Look at that. It's got dark purple with gold and a little bit of maybe platinum in there.
Pretty.
That look is just gorgeous to me, very mottled look. And then vintage lilac embossing tinsel.
So that has a bit of shine, as you can see.
So,
okay.
and that one does, even though it's glitter, it does heat emboss.
Okay, so test everything. This is our card, and you can see how this is not as vintagey or as heavily encrusted as some of the other cards have been. Really mostly right down here, and then a smattering as it goes up into the rest of the card. And the torn edges really add a nice distressed look to it.
That was, yeah, I liked that too. It's been torn, it's been inked, and then those different kinds of glitter on there. And a little bit was concentrated on the center of the flowers.
Right. This is what the stamp is. I think this is a Stampendous day. So we have that. Now we're going into the teal set.
The teal set.
What do you have for this one?
Well, this is one of my favorite sets. And actually everybody in the design department, this is one of my favorites. Teal color fragments. So you can see those there. The teal mica, which actually doesn't represent very well on here, but it's mica as in the other form of the silver, but it's got a hint of teal to it.
Right.
Aged teal embossing enamel, which has got gold within it. Detail capri embossing powder, which is very glittery and fine.
Yeah.
And my favorite, sky blue embossing powder. And what I like about this is that it is a transparent embossing powder.
Oh.
So you can see other things underneath it when you emboss over something else.
So it feels like if it is an embossing enamel, it's going to have the mixture of colors and be heavier.
Yes.
Okay, so just good to know. We've got some beautiful things here. Now, here is one that is, again, more of a vintage look. What I think is fun about this is that it is having more placement of the encrusted jewels. So you can see at the end of the brushes that is with the tinsel.
At the end of the brushes,
right?
The tinsel. Oh gosh, I think it's a little bit. It's
the
mostly embossing powder.
Is it?
It's mostly the transparent embossing powder, but I think a little of the embossing, the other one, the glitter one, got on top of it too.
Yeah, very pretty. And then we have the kind of the mixture of things going over on the side, as well as along the edge of this 5-inch square card.
So for something like that, you're going to ink up your stamp with Versamark, stamp it on there, and then you're just going to spatter or pour the different elements right where you want them.
Right. And then you can move them around with your finger or a brush. This is what the stamp looks like. So make art, which is priceless, and artist brushes is that grouping. Now, something else that we did with the teal is this fabulous card. Fabulous card.
It's using the small fern stamp and our new geometric paper pack.
And here is the small fern stamp, which I think is one of the most highly used ones.
Might be. This one also used super fine white embossing powder.
Okay.
And what I did with this...
You're going to do a demo, I gather.
I've got the paper that I used. I started by taking that rectangular piece of paper and I backed it on cardstock first. Okay. Because I didn't want it to buckle up quite as much. I took the stamp and I went ahead and stamped with Versamark and embossed in white several different ferns. So I've got that element going on.
And you can see why it's called superfine. It gets into that detail of those ferns just perfectly.
Right.
So I also, you said geometric, right?
Geometric paper.
And I think sometimes you might think that geometric, okay, it's got to be masculine or it's got to be only straight lines, but this is really kind of proof that you can do a lot of different things with it.
You know, I'm sitting here taking out, which ones do I think I used all of them on this one. So I think I've got all of them on here, and we'll see what we can come up with. After they've been stamped, I'm going to start working just on this one corner.
Yeah.
I took the Versamark, and you know, something I want to mention is when you're working with these encrusted jewel kits, it's kind of a good idea to keep a Versamark just for them because they can sort of get a little messier with the elements sticking to it and they're kind of blowing all over.
Good to know.
So you want to keep a nice clean one if you're using white embossing powder elsewhere. And I'm going to re-ink the stamp with a Versamark. And for these cases, I'm going to set them right back on top of each fern. And it does not have to be perfect because I'm just trying to get a little of something on there so that... I'm
going to scoot this up a little bit just so we get it there. So you re-ink, of course.
So you re-ink, and I'm going to stamp each one. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm planning on putting the different elements sort of on the center and the base of the ferns.
Okay.
I'm going to move these out of the way.
You know, I would not have thought of doing encrusted jewels on ferns, let alone teal ones.
Oh.
So that's, you know, just even that alone is fun to see.
What I did was, oh, not that one. Ah, there is one that I didn't use. I'm going to start with the Detail Capri embossing powder. And I'm just going to get a little of that right on the center of the ferns. Just sort of shake it. Come on.
And you can talk to it that way too. Sometimes that helps.
I've tried to just sort of shake it down the center of the ferns. That's what I did in this case. A little bit more on that one.
Okay.
I am going to shake that off a little bit. You want paper before I do it?
I'm getting it for you.
I waited. Sort of shake that off. So that's
okay.
General, localized on the center. Yeah,
I'll move this.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'll bring it back for you.
All right. Then I'm going to add a little bit of the embossing powder. And go around the bases a little bit more.
So this is positioning your embassing tools.
Yeah, wherever you want it.
I should have had that under there, shouldn't I?
Shake that off a little bit. So you've got a little bit of that. A little bit more right there. I'm being picky.
And you're working a little quickly because you don't want that Versamark to dry.
To dry too much. Okay, well, as far as something sticking, that's about that. And then I'm going to add, this time, I'm going to add the mica flakes before I do that embossing because it'll work that way too.
And you're putting those on by hand.
I'm putting them on by hand, and I always put more than I want because they are going to blow away.
Okay, just live with that, huh? Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah, mica flakes, they blow with the wind. So they don't melt, and I'm going to add just a little bit of the color fragments.
Oh, really?
So just a little bit of each of the elements. I'm just going to throw them on there now and see what happens.
Feels like you're cooking.
Little of this, pinch of that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I've got my heat gun, and here we go. I'm going to pick it up, and as with all of them, I'm going to do it from underneath. If you don't like the look, if you think there's too much, scoot some of them off. I kind of think it's going to do that on its own here in a second. Yeah, there they go. And I'm reheating some of the white enamel that are not enamel, the white embossing powder that's already there. And I'm also heating up the enamel that I placed on there. And there you can sort of see it turning. I can see it turning, I hope you can.
Yeah.
And as we heat through, it melts the enamels and it sticks those elements on.
I feel like when you're done, I want to push everything in to make sure that it's really into the enamel.
Well, what I do is, you know, if it's sitting there and it hasn't moved around, then I find that after it's all heated and it's all done, then I shake the card off and things fly off. It just did not get stuck. But it's, you know, no matter what you do, it gives this beautiful look. There, I think I got it.
Okay.
Down at this end a little bit. It's best to keep it moving so that you're not burning the paper.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how we did.
Ah, very good. They all stayed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I'm going to show you what happens if you do it from the top. If it's stuck on there, it'll stay. If not, oh, they're pretty good. It doesn't hurt to do it a little bit from the top to make sure it's anchored well.
Sure.
So.
How gorgeous is that?
How we did that.
Let's scoot this, and I'm going to roll that. Okay, how beautiful. So ferns with geometric, with teal encrusted jewels. I am amazed at that color combination. Then you did vellum.
Then I did vellum. There's a couple of strips of vellum on there. I also want to show you the inside because one of my favorite elements of this kit is that transparent embossing powder. And you can see how I put down the white embossing first. Then I stamped again with Versamark between them and used the teal embossing powder, and you can see the white right through it. I just think that's a gorgeous look. That is gorgeous. And I also love that vellum coming in. Now on the front, go ahead and close it. Just wanted to show you also added the silver linen
paper. This is specialty 12 by 12 paper, just to add even more shine into this beautiful card.
And one little example that I did, I'll show really quick, is I've got some of the powder back there, the enamel, and I stamped in Stays On White right in the center of it. Got kind of a unique look too.
Interesting.
So play with it. Do lots of different things and see what you come up with.
Yeah, gorgeous. Use this as a good kickoff point. Now, we're going into bronze. Bronze is the last collection, and you have a cheat sheet for us?
I do.
Okay.
This is bronze glass glitter, tea-stained mica flakes, aged copper embossing powder. I mean, that looks like a penny. It's just gorgeous. A little bit of teal or something in there. And golden sand, and ignore this for a second, embossing enamel. And this is vintage mahogany embossing tinsel. And you couldn't see that very well, so I put a little bit on the embossing enamel so you could see it.
Okay. Now, our card, using all of that, is this one. And what is different here is that they've been just kind of segregated to the corners, where they're just adding just a lovely finishing touch and then a little bit on each side of this typewriter. Yes.
So it's stamped on pattern paper, which you can see the brown in between there. And then we used the sand, I think it's sand, right? Golden sand embossing powder, and then just stuck a little bit of the microfragments, which if you don't want to reheat this, like I say, you can just use a little glue to glue on the microfragments.
And this is a Tim Holtz collection. He has a whole bunch of stamps that have this blueprint look, and this is one of those, and we have a whole bunch of them, but just wanted you to see how that looks and what a great idea. And I love the idea of the paper coming up with some journaling on top of it.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, okay, this is the red velvet paper pack.
The 6x6.
to engage that, but...
Now, we have some that are mixed. This is the teal and the bronze, and it began on one of the chipboard pennants. It comes in a set of 2 like this.
Right.
Talk us through this.
This is the pennant here, and it's matted behind on the homegrown paper pack. On the actual pennant, I took some of the papers and I just tore strips back and forth all the way down so I could get some of that tearing. Then I edged it with the Versamark and used the embossing tinsel around the edges.
Right.
This here, what you see set up, is the Serendipity stamp set.
Looks like this. So very different look from the stamps we've been showing you.
Great new stamp set. It's got a lot of fun little elements on it. And for these pieces, I Versamarked them, and then I put some of the tinsel on top, some of the embossing powder in the center, and some of the brown tinsel from the bronze set. Down at the bottom.
So the 3 of them.
Bronze, yeah.
That's fun to see that on a flower. Also fun to see it on a word.
Right, and I didn't have to heat them in between each of those steps. I just poured each one on and then, dump them off, sprinkle them, whatever. Shook them off and then heated them.
Now you use some of the new paper twine, or paper twine, yeah.
I unfurled it completely, swiped the whole length of the twine with Versamark, and sprinkled all the different elements on it and heated it.
And I wondered why I had this package of buttons. And this is why I have it. This is a black and white set, but look what happens.
They started like that, and
Let's
they
get in
ended
close.
like this. So each one was Versamarked. And, I want to show you something. Each one was Versamarked, and then I added several different elements and heated them. And I want to show you this. This is a little, it's got a
retractable pick.
Retractable pick, and I held on to each button like this. I set it down on the craft sheet and held on to it like that while I heated it with the heat gun, so it wouldn't fly away.
Good idea. Very neat. Now, scrapbookers, you are not left out of this. I hope you're still watching, because look at this page. Let me get this stuff out of the way.
Is that the fresh cut?
That is fresh cut paper pack. And look what's going on. You can really see it as I wiggle this, but...
The term gilding the lily comes to mind in this.
Beautifully done along the edge, just like we did it on the edge of the cards. Here it is on the edge of our paper, a little bit in the centers. And then this is a happy 25th anniversary. So
the numbers.
Yes, I'm getting them over
here. The numbers have
here.
actually been embossed with the different elements, and the flakes, the glitter, have been added to that.
The 25 comes from the monograms because it's got monograms and it's got numbers in it. 259 of them.
Excuse me, and those just pop right out. They're really easy to use, and so they've been embossed. And Lene cut out some of the flowers from the actual artwork from the paper. So there's some separate elements there.
And so a big side has it of the encrusted jewels along the whole thing. On the other side, it's just that corner and the upper corner, as well as the 25. So
just another way to use that bronze kit.
So I hope we validated your idea of wanting to get some encrusted jewels. You can just use them on everything and gild your heart content.
Have fun. See you tomorrow.